Before we get started, we just want to say thank you to Accsoon for sending us the FC01 for review. But we're not paid to say anything besides our own opinions, and Accsoon does not get to see this video before it is published. Let's get straight to the point. The Accsoon FC01 is a very easy to use wireless follow focus. For basic controls, we didn't even need to look at the user's menu. Once both the controller and the motor are powered, they will connect with each other straight out of the box, which is very cool. Before we talk about the features of the FC01, we just want to talk about a couple of scenarios where you would want to use a wireless follow focus. If you just want to learn about the FC01, you can skip to the next section of the video. The first scenario is, of course, when you have a focus puller, a person to pull focus away from the camera and the lens. This is the most obvious and ideal way to utilize a wireless follow focus like the FC01. This allows the videographer or cinematographer to focus just on compositions and movements of the camera. Having someone to pull focus will make everything much easier. You can also be the one pulling your own focus when you are away from the camera. Maybe you have the camera set up at a spot that is very difficult to reach, let's say on a car mount or a motorized camera arm, then you can use the wireless follow focus to adjust the focus without having to be with the camera. The second scenario is attaching the focus wheel on the camera and you as the videographer pulling your own focus. This is a little less common because a lot of times people just adjust the focus by grabbing onto the lens, but there are reasons why you would want to use a wireless follow focus. First, when the focus ring on the lens is hard to reach, let's say it is too far away from you, using a wireless follow focus will be much more comfortable and less awkward than trying to reach for the focus ring. Second, sometimes twisting the focus ring on the lens will cause unwanted movements. A nicely designed wireless follow focus is usually much more gentle and the vibrations will be much more minimal, and the focus control wheel is usually very well dampened as well. The last scenario we can think of is when you are using a gimbal and you want to pull your focus while filming. It is impossible to adjust focus using the focus ring on the lens when the camera is on a gimbal, so a wireless follow focus can definitely help. This is the least favorite setup, at least to us, because when you are filming with a gimbal, most likely you'll be moving around. Trying to pull focus manually at the same time is just super tough. Unless you are very comfortable doing that, we would rather have a focus puller to do the focus pull for us. Some gimbals like the DJI RS2 and the RS3 has a built-in follow focus motor that uses the dial on the gimbal handle, but we found that it is very difficult to control and be accurate using that tiny wheel. So the FC01 will definitely be much easier to use, at least to us. Those are the scenarios we can think of. Now let's talk about the Accsoon FC01. The first thing we highly recommend you to do is to calibrate the motor with your lens. You can either manually calibrate it or use the auto calibration button on the controller. It is as easy as pressing and holding the button, and the motor will rotate and remember the hard stops of the lens. It will take about 5 seconds. One very big advantage of the FC01 is how gentle when it is doing the calibration. It doesn't spin very fast and hit the hard stops of the lens like it is going to break the lens or the lens mount. I don't know about other people, but it hurts every time when the calibration does that to my lenses. Don't worry, the FC01 is very smooth and gentle, which is a big plus to us. Once the calibration is done, you can start using the FC01 like a normal follow focus. The focus wheel is very smooth and well dampened. It has just enough resistance that it will not spin on its own, and it feels very tactile and responsive. The control wheel also has hard stops just like a mechanical follow focus. They will match the hard stop points of your lens after the calibration. So if you hit one of the hard stops on the focus wheel, your lens will be at its minimal focus distance or infinity focus point, which is super cool. It doesn't matter if your lens has a different focus throw of, let's say, 270 degree, 300 degree, or 320 degree, because the calibration will translate that to the rotation of the focus wheel. That's why the auto calibration is so simple and worry-free when you switch lenses. Another great feature of the FC01 is the ability to set AB points. All you need to do is to press the AB button once, focus at one point, press the AB button again, focus at the second point, press the AB button again, and the AB points will be set. It doesn't matter how far you spin the focus wheel, the motor will only go from A to B point or B to A point. The only thing I wish the focus wheel can do is to set the AB points at its hard stops, because right now if your AB points are set, you have this empty space between the points and the hard stops. You don't know when it will hit the points unless you look at the LCD screen on the focus wheel. Besides the AB button, there's also a start and stop record button where you can use the USB-C to USB-C cable to control certain camera models. That is again very convenient if you have the camera set up at a hard to reach location. There's also a CW and CCW button where you can press and hold to switch the direction of the focus wheel, which is very nice if you are more comfortable with a specific direction to pull focus. On the focus wheel, there's also a LCD display that shows you the status of the battery, the signal strength, the focus distance in percentage, and if AB points are set. I personally don't use the screen too much because I mainly look at the monitor to pull focus, but if you have multiple focus points, it is good to use the LCD screen for that. There's also a USB-C port on the focus wheel if you want to use a wired connection to control the focus motor. This is good because you can power the focus motor at the same time with the battery inside the focus wheel. Talking about power, one very nice thing that Accsoon did was to include all the cables you need to power the focus motor. There's a DC to USB-C cable that allows you to power the focus motor just like us using an NPF battery plate that is already on the camera. There's also a D-tap to USB-C cable if you want to power the focus motor using a V-mount or gold mount battery. That is so nice of Accsoon to include those cables because usually you will have to buy them separately. When it comes to powering the focus wheel, it is kind of interesting because they are using a less common Sony battery to do that. It is definitely not super common, but it is much better than some other companies that use their own battery and weird charging method, so I have no complaints here. Accsoon has also included a short 50mm rod and a rod clamp that you can use to attach the focus motor on your camera cage if you don't have a rod system. And for some reason, it fits our BMP-CC 4K cage perfectly, which is awesome. The build quality of the F-C01 is not bad at all. The focus motor and the body of the focus wheel is made of plastic, but the wheel itself is made of metal and the mount is also made of metal, which is great for durability. The main thing I wish Accsoon can do next time is not to use their own proprietary quick release plate on the focus wheel. It is not NATO, it is not Accsoon, at least I don't know what it is, but you can only use the quick release plate that comes with the follow focus to attach the focus wheel. So if you lose it, I don't even know how you can attach the focus wheel. Maybe at least Accsoon can include more than one quick release plate in the box. If we have to switch from one setup to another, we have to unscrew the quick release plate to attach it to another setup. That's the opposite of having a quick release. Another minor thing that Accsoon can do next time is to have a white ring on the focus wheel. So if a focus puller wants to mark the points on the wheel, they can do that. But I personally really like the dark gray focus wheel. Here's a quick demonstration to show you how to attach and start using the Accsoon F-C01 wireless follow focus on a camera. Hey guys, now I'm going to show you a quick demonstration on how to set up the Accsoon F-C01 wireless follow focus system on my BMP-CC 4K. So the follow focus system does come with a very nice pouch that contains everything that you need to set up the wireless follow focus. So as you can see, you have all the tools and the follow focus wheel, the motor, the battery, the 50mm rod, and the rod clamp. And now let's take a look and see what we need to set up the focus motor onto the BMP-CC 4K. In the pouch or the plastic bag, you have all these 1/4-20 screws, and you also have an Allen key to mount the rod clamp onto your camera. Basically, I assume that you have a camera cage, so you can use these 1/4-20 screws to screw the rods onto your camera. If you don't have a cage, you can still use the regular base plate that comes with the 50mm rods. So that's a good thing about the F-C01 because some focus motors, they do have a proprietary size, which, for example, the RS2, the DJI RS2 has a 12mm rod clamp. So that's a little bit annoying because if you want to use a 50mm rod, you have to use an adapter. So if you put the screw onto the, rod clamp, you can just mount it onto anywhere that is a good fit onto your cage. For some reason, the tilted cage has a rod, or not the rod clamp, but the 1/4-20 mount that is at the top of the cage that's perfectly for this setup. So I'm just gonna mount the rod clamp onto the cage like this at the top. Make sure that the rod clamp is facing the front in a straight position so it doesn't have the rod like bent to one side. And then what you need to do is, of course, you have the rod here, the 50mm rod. You just need to slide it into the clamp and tighten the clamp. Next, you have the focus motor, which is this right here. You can see that there's another clamp at the top, which is the 50mm rod clamp. You just need to slide it into the rod and make sure that the gear aligns with your lens right here. Just push it in, make sure that the gear is clicked into the gear on your lens. And I would suggest you to push the motor a little bit against the lens so it doesn't drift or slide when you're pulling focus. So push it a little bit, not too hard, because it might damage your mount, your lens mount. So just push it against the lens a little bit and then tighten up the knob at the top like this. Make sure this is tight. Same thing as the one of the rod clamp. And next you have, we're going to talk about power supply and the cables later. You have this quick release plate that comes with the F-C01. Again, I wish they are not using a proprietary quick release plate, because if you lose this, I don't even know how you're gonna mount the focus motor, or not the focus motor, the focus wheel onto your setup, because I don't even know what this is. Like, it's not Accsoon, but anyway, you use a 1/4-20 screw, put it in there. You can use more than one screw, but for my setup, I only have one slot that it's gonna take this one screw. I keep dropping the screw, sorry guys. So once this is on, I have one spot on the tilted cage of my BMPCC 4K or 6K that you can mount this onto the setup without hitting the cables and also without being in the way when you're shooting. So here I have the quick release plate. This is the spot that I'm mounting the focus wheel on. I'm just gonna mount it like this. And one quick tip, if you have the same setup, is to mount this kind of slanted like this, not completely horizontal or completely straight up, because there's no way that you can put the focus wheel on there. And if you put it horizontally, it might hit your cables, because I have a power supply cable going into the BMPCC 4K. So this is how I would do it. It's pretty much the same because it's a focus wheel, so it's like circular, so it doesn't really matter if the quick release plate is kind of slanted. And then we have, of course, the focus wheel right here. The focus wheel is really nice. It's like a gray silver kind of finish, but I wish it comes with a white ring, so if someone wants to mark their focus point, they can do that. But anyway, it looks really nice and it matches with my setup really well. So at the bottom of the focus wheel, you have a door that is magnetic. You just open it up, and of course there's a battery that comes with the focus wheel. And this is the Sony NPF-W50. And for some reason, it matches with my Sony ZV-E10 camera, so that's good. But these accessories, they don't really use a battery that much, so once it's charged, you can use it for a very, very long time. You just need to slide it in, make sure it's locked, and just close the door. Some people complain that this is a magnetic door, that it might flip open, but there's still a little lock there that prevents the battery from sliding out, so that's still good. So once it's on, once the battery is in, it's not on yet, you need to slide this quick release onto your cage. So as I said before, if I do it kind of slanted, you can see that it's barely clearing away from the cables, which is good because you don't want to bend your cable or your port. So this is really good. So Again, just a quick tip, do a sideways, or not sideways, a little bit slanted this way. And now this is on there. So this is a setup where you will be using to pull focus by yourself with the focus motor on there. And to power the focus motor, I am choosing to use a cable that comes with the wireless follow focus. Again, it comes with all the cables that you probably need. This is a D-tap cable, which is great. If you're using a V-mount battery with a D-tap, this is good because other focus motors, you do have to buy these cables separately. So this is very nice of Accsoon doing that. And you have a USB-C to USB-C cable that goes from the focus motor to a camera that you can control, record, start and stop using the button on the focus wheel, but you have to find out which camera works. But I have the USB-C used for the T5 drive on my BCC 4K, so anyway, it's not gonna work. So here I have this USB-C going into the focus motor. Make sure that you choose the one with the voltage in instead of the cam. Cam is the one that goes to the camera that controls the record and start stop. You just connect this. I'm gonna wrap this cable around a little bit. And the way I'm gonna power this focus motor, as you can see here, I have a NPF battery plate that has an extra port for the DC cable that comes with a 7.4 volt. So the motor can take a little bit higher voltage, but 7.4 is good enough for a lot of lenses already. So I'm just gonna plug this in. You can see that this is a super clean and tight setup that I really, really like. So everything is super clean, nothing is in anything's way, and the cable of the motor is really nice. I'm gonna take away this sticker that says the cable is only for this accessory, so that's later, but anyway, I'll leave this on right now. So once I have everything connected, everything mounted properly, I just need to pop this NPF battery into the plate, and there's power going in here. You can see that the motor is already working. It's already powered. In order to power the focus wheel, you have to press and hold the record button. For some reason, they didn't mark it as power, but if you hold the record button, this will power on. Once it's on, it's already controlling the focus motor, as you can see, but I highly recommend you to calibrate the motor before you start using this, because you don't know the start and stop point of the lens if you don't calibrate it. To calibrate a lens with hard stop, for example, a cine lens like this, there is a stop where you'll hit like infinity focus and minimum focus distance. You just need to press and hold the calibration button on the motor and the motor on the wheel, and then the motor will do the calibration, and it would only take like what, 3 seconds or 5 seconds. Now it's calibrated. So when you hit the hard stop off the wheel, that is the hard stop off the lens, which is amazing. So you won't accidentally go too far. And also, as you saw earlier, the calibration was very gentle. I used other follow focus system before, and when they calibrate with the lens, it has a really big torque. It goes super fast and hit the hard stop, and then super fast again hit the other hard stop. It freaks me out whenever a motor does something like that. So this is really good. The calibration was very gentle, and you can see that the motor and the wheel is very responsive. There's barely any lags. So this is very good. And also you have other buttons. I said before, the record, start and stop button for other cameras that you can use to control via the USB-C cable. And also there's an A and B point setting button where you can set the A point. For example, let's say I want to set this as an A point. I just click this, move to the other spot, set it as a B point, and now it will only go to those 2 points. So this is good for repeating focus of 2 points. So to cancel it, you have to click it again. And then you have a counterclockwise and clockwise button here in the middle, I believe. And if you want to change the direction, let's say you don't want to go, this is going to further focus. If I rotate it this way, and then closer focus if I rotate it this way. If I want to flip it, I just need to press and hold this button. And now if I want to go further away, I go this way, and closer, I go this way. But I think I like it the other way. So I'm just gonna do this again. So now it's back to the orientation that I like. And you also have a pair button here if you want to pair a different motor to a different wheel to the motor, then you can use the pair button on the motor and the focus wheel to pair it again. But out of the box, it's automatically paired, so it's really, really good. This is basically how you set up the Accsoon F-C01 onto your camera. And of course, you can pull this focus wheel out and then get someone to pull focus for you if you want to. But this quick release plate is kind of interesting that they go with a proprietary one, and it only comes with one plate in the box. So I don't know, if I want to mount this onto another thing, I need to use the Allen key to remove the plate and then mount it onto another thing. So that's kind of not how quick release work, at least to my knowledge. And it comes with a lot of extra quarter 20 screws and also this rubber band thingy that a lot of follow focus will come with. And this is for lenses that doesn't have the gear for the focus motor to mount on. So this is, for example, for photo lenses, you can use this, but I would suggest you to get an actual ring size for your photo lenses even, because these guys, they don't get too secure onto lenses. It drifts and moves around a lot. So, but then it's really nice of them to include this. And yeah, that's it. This is how you set up the Accsoon F-C01 wireless follow focus onto your camera. That's it. Those are our thoughts on the Accsoon F-C01 wireless follow focus system. We really enjoy using it, especially when it comes with all the cables and accessories you need to start using it without having to buy more stuff. It is definitely a great choice if you are looking for a follow focus system. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.